Hi to everyone on the line. This is Fletcher Harper with GreenFaith. We're just about a minute away from getting started. So we'll be diving in momentarily and look forward to sharing our plans with you. Hold on tight and we'll get started shortly. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world. It's a real pleasure to join you. This is Fletcher Harper with GreenFaith. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar on our 2018 plans. We have a number of members of our multi-faith team who are here with us today and who will be sharing about those plans and what we're going to be working on in 2018. We're also really eager to hear from you in terms of your questions, your thoughts, and looking forward to partnering with you on work in the important days and months to come. Just briefly, the team members, the GreenFaith team members that you see here on the screen is Sister Nana Furman, who has coordinated our outreach to the Muslim community, among many other things, is with us. Estrella Seinberg, who is our organizer and who's been leading up our local organizing work. The Reverend Dr. Nettie Estudillo, who coordinates and directs our Latin American outreach and is doing more and more work in our training and capacity building area. And our newest team member, actually 2 days or 3 days before it becomes official, but we're thrilled to welcome and be joined by Carolina Bader, formerly of the Lutheran World Federation, who's going to be directing the Multi-Faith Sustainable Living Initiative. So it's great to have all of them with us. And a couple of logistical notes. So you will be able on this webinar to see all of us. The software is set up so that we can't see you. There are over 60 of you on the line right now, so our pictures would get awfully small if we saw each other, even though it would be nice. So we can't see you, but we can, and we can't hear you. All of the lines are muted so that we can get a good clean recording to share with those who weren't able to be with us live. You will be able to share questions and comments with us through the chat function. If you mouse over the screen, you'll see at the bottom of your screen a little speech bubble that says chat. And if you click on that, you can send a question into the panelists or a comment. And we'd encourage you to do that. What we're going to do is go through about a half hour worth of presentation and then have time for responding to questions and comments that you all send in. So without further, and we are recording this, so we'll be sharing that recording link with everybody who registered for the webinar, whether you're with us or not. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump in, and we thought that it made sense to start out by telling you or reminding you a little bit about who GreenFaith is. We are an interfaith environmental organization. Our mission is to inspire and educate and organize and mobilize people of diverse religious and spiritual backgrounds globally for environmental action. And our work is based around three core beliefs. We believe that our religious and spiritual traditions see the sacred in nature and that people grow spiritually through a strong relationship with the earth. We believe that our consumption habits must help heal, restore, and renew the earth. And we believe that all people deserve a healthy environment, regardless of their race, their gender, their income, or where they live. So that's our mission and core beliefs. And I'm going to pass the baton now to Estrella Seinberg, who does our organizing work, who's going to tell you about some commitments that underlie the work that we do. Go ahead, Estrella.
Hi, everyone. So in the work that we do, we seek to embody the following commitments. We are committed to equity. We value diversity in our work, and we seek to help develop leaders, and we believe in systematic and personal transformation and that those are interrelated. and we practice eco-spirituality, meaning that we believe that there is a relation, our faith and our spirituality is strengthened in our relationship with nature and an understanding of that. And we value the local history and wisdom of a community, of a region, and learning from that and referring to that. And we build and sustain long-term values-based relationships, meaning that we value doing work and going into action that is stemmed and rooted in long-term relationships with people and organizations. We carry out this work in 3 interrelated areas of activity. We work in the area of training and capacity building, seeking to develop leaders from diverse faith traditions, equipping them for environmental leadership. We work in campaigning and advocacy. We campaign and advocate for bold solutions to environmental problems locally and internationally. And we seek to accelerate the spread of religious environmental activism through our GreenFaith circles, we'll be telling you about our work and the goals that we have for each of these areas for 2018 in this webinar.
Great. And I'd now like to pass the baton to Nana Furman, who I introduced a moment ago. And after giving you that introduction, we want to sort of walk the talk or model what Estrella just described. And so Nana has prepared a short spiritual opening for us, and then she'll start to talk about the context in which our work is taking place this year.
Yes, thank you, Reverend Fletcher. So I would like to start first with just my reflection on the spiritual, on this kind of work. So like, in my tradition in Islam, we have a verse in the Holy Quran. I will recite it in the Arabic language. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Fastabiqul khairat ukhrijat linnas. So this verse is reflecting that in this verse it is mentioned that we should compete or race towards each other in doing good deeds. And this is a reflection that what we are doing right now in our 2018 plans is racing to each other in doing good deeds for our planet. So with that reflection, I would like to share the 2018 plans for with GreenFaith, that this year is really a tremendous urgency in relation to climate change. And we are working on the 3 mileposts throughout this year. First is like because the current situation is really dangerous based on the scientific report and the IPCC Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change will release a report in this September that will give us the picture of what is the gap of what is the current situation, and also what do we need to do if we want to reach 1.5 degree Celsius for the future. So that's very important. And then another one is looking at that, we don't really have a sufficient commitment from all countries. So then the UN will sponsor a facilitative or Talanoa dialogue this year, and to evaluate their progress towards the Paris Agreement. So that's also a milepost that we are going to work our base of our work. And then another one, an important thing that is going to happen this year is on September also, is the Global Climate Action Summit, which will take place in San Francisco. And obviously in this event, there's a lot of what is called non-state actors. Those are leaders from state, provincial levels, regional levels, businesses, civil societies, and other groups, including faith communities and faith leaders. We have to raise up on this issue. So we are going to gather together with other different groups on People Climate Movement, and my Reverend Fletcher will talk about that in detail later. And so GreenFaith is in the unique position to coordinate and to deliver a collection of multi-faith environmental commitments for the summit as well. And then to work together with all of us, with all of you that are in the webinar right now, to work together, like I mentioned earlier, to compete to each other in doing good deeds. So, Reverend Fletcher, please take it away on what is our top line goals this year.
Great. Thanks very much, Nana. And Nana, do you remember offhand, we've gotten a question already about what verse, what surah in the Quran was cited. Do you have that information offhand?
Yes, that's the verse is the chapter number 2, chapter Surah Al-Baqarah, which is the cow. Is the verse is 148. So chapter 2, verse 148.
Great. Thanks so much. That's great. So as we move forward, you've just gotten a taste of the way in which GreenFaith does interfaith work. We really are to the degree that you can be this as a religious group, proudly interfaith. We really like to showcase and lift up the diversity of the traditions that we work with. Understanding that for some people it may be difficult to pray in the language of another tradition, and assuming that people will just step aside when that situation arises for them. But that it's better, rather than trying to water down our traditions to their lowest common denominator, instead to celebrate them in their wonderful diversity, because we feel that we learn from each other and grow in terms of our understanding of our own traditions when we're exposed to the riches from others. So that was just a quick taste on that. So in terms of the overarching scope of our work this year and our sort of top line goals in relationship to what Nana just described, at the Global Climate Action Summit in San Francisco, which takes place from the 12th to the 14th of September, GreenFaith is going to coordinate the delivery of what we hope will be the largest ever collection of multi-faith climate and environmental commitments at a level of both scale and accountability, so that political leaders will take note of what we've been able to do together. So that's a first sort of top line goal, and Carolina is going to talk about that a little bit later on. At the same time, several days before the summit begins on the 8th of September, with the People's Climate Movement and with other partners around the world, we are excited to help lead organizing efforts among faith and spiritual groups internationally to turn out large numbers of people for the globally distributed series of mobilizations that will happen on September 8th. And also looking to use this moment as a chance to initiate a distributed organizing process and to launch GreenFaith circles in a growing number of locations around the world. We're off to a good start with some of that work, and we're really eager to use 2018 as a time to accelerate it. To talk about some of the training and capacity building work that's going to help lay the foundation for that expansion, I'm really, really pleased to welcome Reverend Dr. Nettie Astudillo, who coordinates our Latin American work. Nettie is a pastor and eco-theologian, and is going to be playing an increasingly important role in terms of leading GreenFaith's training and capacity building work. So Nettie, I'm going to pass the baton to you.
Thank you, Fletcher. Buenos dias. Hey, good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you this morning. So in the terms of training and capacity building, we will be focusing on 3 initiatives. One is the Green Seminary Initiative. The second one is the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative. And the last one will be the Fellowship Program. In terms of the Green Seminary Initiative, this is a program of GreenFaith and Drew Theological School that empowers seminaries to integrate care for the earth across all areas of the school's institutional lives. As you know, seminaries are the training grounds for the next generation of faith leaders, and that makes this initiative a key way to transform and empower the faith sector for environmental leadership. So in 2018, we will work with 12 or more seminaries through the Seminary Environmental Certification Program. 11 of those are in the US and 1 in Latin America. This is a 3-year initiative where our schools develop and implement their action plans to position environmental protection as central to the religious leadership. In 2018, we will also help coordinate 2 conferences for seminary faculty, staff, and students in Atlanta in the spring and Los Angeles in California in the fall. The other training and capacity building initiative that we're working on for this year is the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative. And through this initiative and in partnership with the UN and the multi-faith and environmental partners, we will educate, train, and mobilize religious and spiritual leaders to work with indigenous leaders to protect tropical rainforests and lungs of planet Earth. This initiative started last year at a conference at the Nobel Center in Oslo, where all of the above organizations met. IRI is the short name for this initiative. It's a campaign designed to mobilize religious leaders to protect rainforest preserves in 3 key areas globally. One is the Amazon, in Indonesia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. So in 2018, we will collaborate with the above organizations, including Religions for Peace and the UN Environmental Program and others, to organize environmental and advocacy training for religious leaders from Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Indonesia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and will equip faith leaders in these countries to engage in advocacy in collaboration with rainforest advocates and indigenous peoples organizations. We will also help develop and coordinate relationships between in-country teams in each of these 5 focused countries. We will foster relationships between in-country faith teams and indigenous and secular activists. And we seek to develop GreenFaith circles in these countries as platforms for ongoing religious environmental leadership. And last but not least, by the end of 2018, we plan to relaunch the fellowship program. As you may know, for over 10 years now, the GreenFaith Fellowship Program has been bringing together a range of faith and spiritual leaders for leadership training and community building. And we expect to be live again in September of 2018 with a focus on the local organizing work that Estrella will be describing soon for all of you. So as time approaches, we are excited to be able to share more information about this program.
That's great, Nettie. Thanks so much. And we're really, really excited about the emergence of the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative and the other initiatives, the Green Seminary Initiative, hoping to expand that work into more of an international context as well. We'll also have a brief shout out to our colleague Gopal Patel, who is the director of the Bhumi Project, BHUMI. Bhumi is Sanskrit for Mother Earth. And the Bhumi Project is a partnership represents a partnership between the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies and GreenFaith. And Gopal has been leading the Bhumi Project for the past 6 years to engage Hindu leaders around the globe on environmental concerns. This coming year, the Bhumi Project, and Gopal will be sharing more about this on the webinar this evening, the Bhumi Project will be organizing connections with emerging Hindu leaders at a number of universities in the U.S. And we'll be coordinating large-scale Hindu participation in the Multi-Faith Sustainable Living Initiative that Carolina is going to describe in just a couple of minutes, and also generating some Hindu resources to help Hindu temples around the world engage with climate and environmental issues, and organizing a series of events in different places in India. Gopal's also going to describe on the webinar tonight really exciting plans for the launch of GreenFaith India during 2018, a multi-faith partnership there that we're really thrilled about. So more to come in that regard. We're going to shift now and talk a little bit about the campaigning and advocacy work that we do. For many years, GreenFaith has been proud to serve as a leader within the faith community globally of the fossil fuel divestment movement. And we're going to continue our work on promoting fossil fuel divestment along with many partners such as the Global Catholic Climate Movement, who's been doing great work lately in that area. We're also going to be integrating a greater focus on the positive side of the equation, working to promote positive investment by religious and spiritually based investors in climate solutions, particularly in parts of the world where people have no access to modern forms of electricity. There are over 1 billion people globally who don't have access to modern forms of electricity, and they desperately need that access to live a decent life. And the world needs that energy to be renewable energy. And so we're thrilled to be partnering with partners from the faith and philanthropy and NGO communities on a campaign called Shine, which is a campaign designed to mobilize values-based investors to invest in distributed clean energy solutions for energy-poor regions of the world. During 2018, we'll be bringing forth a first round of commitments of investments from these partners. GreenFaith is proud to be part of the leadership team of the Shine campaign, and we look forward to sharing more information with you about that as the year progresses. I had a brief chance to introduce earlier Carolina Bader from Germany, who's going to be directing the Multi-Faith Sustainable Living campaign. Carolina, it's wonderful to welcome you to our team officially in 3 days. Thanks so much for being willing to jump the gun a little bit and to hop on this webinar to share a little bit about the work you're going to be doing, and we'll pass the microphone to you.
Yes, hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. So my name is Caroline, and I'm very happy to introduce to you the Multi-Faith Sustainable Living campaign, which has been launched at COP23 in Bonn last November under the name Walk on Earth Gently. And it's a very unique possibility of bringing together a diverse coalition of faith-based and spiritual organizations to work on 3 pillars of sustainable living, which we have identified to be the most impactful on CO2 emissions. So those 3 pillars are our diet, so moving towards a plant-based diet. It's about energy use and switching to renewable energies in households and houses of worship, and also reducing climate or carbon-intensive transportation. There are, of course, different ways or different starting points to become active in the climate movement, and we think that this initiative is also a door opener to many who want to change with their own personal lifestyles. For that, we have planned some different actions throughout 2018, and those are to get religious and spiritual leaders on board and to invite them to show their commitment and to take a pledge publicly on sustainable lifestyles. Secondly, we want to work on the narratives and how we in our different faith traditions talk about why we are good stewards of the earth, why we should be in good relationship with creation, and how this translates into our daily life. Our third action will work around the community aspect of that. How can communities engage, empower each other, encourage each other, and learn together on sustainable lifestyles? Because it's nice if you do a change on your own, but it's better if you celebrate that together and if you constantly support each other. We'll also offer some peer counseling and experts' advice on the best practices on sustainable living and what the science says about the impact of our ecological footprint and the changes we do. And last but not least, we also want to go into public celebration. We want to show publicly what faith communities are able to do already now. Before the Paris Agreement even comes into force, we can share together on the changes that are possible through faith communities and individuals. And we do that, all these actions together with a coalition or a team of 7 global faith-based organizations, Christian, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, and Buddhist. I'm just naming those 7 because you might know some of them. So we have the Bhumi Project, our Hindu partner, Born Earth Sangha, our Hindu partner, the Global Catholic Climate Movement, the World Evangelical Alliance, and the World Council of Churches as the Christian partners. Hazon is our Jewish partner, and the Global Muslim Climate Movement is our Muslim partner. And together we are planning for developing resources and training, and then support the communities to facilitate a global presence at some of the key events which were mentioned earlier in this call. One will be the Global Climate Action Summit in California. That's in September. And another important moment is the COP24 UN Climate Change Conference in Katowice in Poland, which is in December. We also want to organize a public celebration, and towards the end of 2018, we invite you all to be part of a global day of commitment and making the change visible. So we want to see 50 to 70 global distributed events and thousands of grassroots events, which can then link together, happen at the same time, being global and local at the same time. And with that, we want to invite more people to come on board and to become role models, ambassadors, champions of sustainable lifestyles, and to connect that deeply with their own faith tradition.
Great, thanks so much, Carolina. It's great. And I want to underscore what Carolina mentioned towards the end about the weekend towards the end of the year, when we're going to be with our partners coordinating a weekend of celebration and of bringing forth these commitments from spiritual and faith communities around the world. We think that's going to be a really, really exciting weekend, and we're excited about that and eager to partner and work with you all on that. We do have some questions coming in, which is great. Again, please use the Q&A or the chat function to send in questions. We'll get to those in just a moment, so we have seen them. I'm going to talk briefly now about some US-focused advocacy work that GreenFaith is doing, because obviously here in the US, we've got, to say that we've got our hands full is quite an understatement. So in the era that we're in the Trump era, strong state-level policy work really matters more than ever, because that's where the progress is going to happen. We are in the process now of playing a leadership role in what we think are two of the really strongest comprehensive state-based climate advocacy campaigns in the country. Jersey Renews is a coalition of faith, labor, environmental, and social justice groups across New Jersey, across the state of New Jersey, which are working together for strong policy commitments that will dramatically reduce air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, while also creating good green jobs and providing and channeling resources and support to overburdened communities to help them adapt and mitigate the impacts of climate change and air pollution. New York Renews is a campaign with a similar coalition of partners, a slightly older campaign than Jersey Renews, which has very ambitious policy goals in New York State. And we're very, very pleased to be serving on the steering committee of New York Renews. We'll be working to mobilize and educate faith leaders both in New York and New Jersey in support of those campaigns. And we'll also be looking for opportunities to support aggressive climate, faith, labor coalitions in different places around the country. We're very pleased to be working with a number of labor and environmental partners also to plan a boat tour in June of 2018, where we'll bring 80 to 100 faith leaders from around the mid-Atlantic region of the United States on a boat tour to the first offshore wind farm, the Block Island Wind Farm, off the Rhode Island coast in the United States. And we'll be issuing a multi-faith support statement in support of offshore wind power development and conducting some legislative advocacy in support of that, again, with a number of partner organizations. And we also hope, as Carolina mentioned, the climate negotiations, the UN climate negotiations this year will be taking place in Poland in December of 2018. Poland is still heavily dependent on the coal industry for its energy supply, and it's an important part of the economy. We want to be entering into a dialogue and bringing forth what people refer to as issues about a just transition. We know that in the transition to a clean energy economy, there will be jobs that will be displaced and communities that will be affected by that. And obviously, as faith communities, we want to see strong support for the retraining of workers, for support for communities to enable them to make this kind of transition to a clean energy future in a healthy and sustainable way. And we want to be building partnerships with workers and with labor unions to help make that happen. The faith community has a long history of proactive and positive collaboration with labor partners, and we're eager to be looking to launch and build that out in relationship to climate and environmental issues in 2018. So that's an overview of our campaigning work. More and more, the way in which our work finds expression is at the local level. Faith groups do so much of their really important work locally in local communities where mosques and synagogues and churches and temples and faith-based schools have their homes and have relationships with people in their communities. Estrella Sainberg has been leading up our local organizing work over the last couple of years, and she's going to share a little bit more about that and about our plans for 2018. So Estrella, I'll pass to you.
Thanks. So to build on what Fletcher said about faith communities playing a critical role in the environmental movement and environmental stewardship, GreenFaith circles are empowering people of faith to build public relationships and leadership skills and build the capacity and power for environmental stewardship and justice. And so for the past few years, GreenFaith circles have been organized in New Jersey and New York and Colorado to bring together faith institutions at a local level from diverse traditions that are from different socioeconomic positions to learn from each other, to pray and meditate with each other, and to plan for environmental action. It's really clear from what we've been saying on this webinar that it's critical that we come together to shift the economy towards in a way that will allow us to steward the earth, as well as develop habits in our congregations and in our own lives that will be sustainable and advocate for environmental justice. So GreenFaith circles bring together, like I said, 5 or more faith institutions from at least 3 different religions, and that varies depending on the context, to plan and work together and to steward the earth. And so right now there's 5 GreenFaith circles in New Jersey in different places. And if you're in New Jersey, I invite you to connect with me to see what we can do together. GreenFaith circles have been educating the public about the relationship between faith and the environment. They've been going on rallies and marches together. They've been meeting with their political representatives to share their concerns and ask questions to them. And we hope to see more of this happening throughout the country. More specifically, we will be having GreenFaith circles organized or we hope to be seeing GreenFaith circles organized in Colorado and Florida, South Carolina, and Arkansas. And if you're in any of those states, please let us know, or if you know someone that is. And if you're not, please let us know also if you're interested in organizing a GreenFaith circle where you are. We definitely want to work with partners on building local relationships and organizing locally. And GreenFaith circles choose and determine the environmental actions and their priorities, especially depending on the local environmental problems that they're facing and the opportunities they want to seize. We certainly invite circles into any of the campaigns that have been mentioned today and into collaborating with local and international partners, including GreenFaith. And I invite you all to consider joining a circle and working locally with other faith communities to protect and steward the environment.
Great, thanks, Estrella. That's great. And we'll be entering into the chat function of the webinar here email contact addresses for all of us. We'll also be sharing those email addresses in the follow-up email that we'll send out either later today or tomorrow with the recording link to the webinar. So you'll get that, you'll be able to know how to contact us with that information. So we've got a number of questions to ask, and I'm going to sort of distribute these questions to some different people. So one question from our good friend Kolya Brown Greiner at Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake is, will the Sustainable Living Campaign offer a guide for congregations or a way for congregations or faith communities to enter the results of their behavior changes into some sort of, so that along with other faith communities, so that together we can aggregate these results? Carolina, would you like to speak to that a little bit?
Yes, sure. So thank you very much for this question. This is indeed an idea that we have been sharing as well. How can we actually make it visible that different faith actors and different individuals are doing an impact and having a global impact together? So we will be working with myfootprint.org, which is an which you all know, I guess, kind of scaling the ecological footprint. And we have ideas on how to give a technical tool to everyone who's joining the initiative to then actually make the changes visible and actually also put in the data of what they're saving. So we're working on a solution for that, and any idea will be welcome in that process of developing it. Thank you.
Great. Estrella, a question that I think is probably best directed towards you is a couple of questions about what's involved in the early stages of local groups or local leaders exploring the development of a Green Faith Circle. How does that process get started, and what are some of the early steps that groups go through?
Definitely. So in the beginning stages of exploring a circle are a number of conversations with faith leaders and clergy in a local kind of given locale. And it's important to have conversations where we explore and hear and listen to people's interests and their concerns and their questions, and start to see and hear what their hopes are for the future. And we bring together people for a couple exploratory meetings, as we call them, to see if there's interest and potential for a Green Faith Circle, where local faith communities partner with Green Faith for the resources, tools, and trainings to develop a circle and plan environmental actions locally. And so those are some of the key steps at the beginning, and we certainly would do that in conversation and in collaboration and in a way that works best for your context.
And one thing that I will sort of lift up, and which speaks to another, we got a couple of questions about the nature of partnerships that Green Faith has with different groups in different regions or states. We actively partner with a host of different groups in different places around the United States and internationally, and always try to build relationships as part of the work that we do in any given area. What we found is in many cases distinct about the local organizing work is that it really is focused quite locally. It's getting 5 to 15 congregations together in a particular area to go to work on these issues. And so it's an effort to try to take this movement, this religious environmental movement that we're all committed to, and to vest ownership and leadership of that at the community level, which we think is what we need to do in order to get to the scale that's needed to address the challenges and the problems that we face. And we've got a question about whether there's a list of active circles by state. It's still you all are in at the ground floor. Estrella can share that. We can share that as part of the work that we're doing. Or actually, our newest circle is coming into formation in Delhi, India. They're in their early stages, and we're really excited about that. But we expect 2018 to be a real year of growth in that regard. Another question that came in, and Nettie, you might be able to speak to this, and I can also, with the question about with the Green Seminary Initiative, whether that's focused specifically on certifications for clergy or certifications for institutions. And obviously we're institutionally focused. Perhaps, Nettie, you could say a little bit more about some of the activities that the Green Seminary Initiative undertakes with seminaries, and then I can fill in some on that also.
Yes, and I very briefly answered that question, saying that perhaps also the fellowship program would be a very good link for a clergy person to connect with the Green Faith work and training. I did it myself as a Presbyterian pastor. It was a great way to connect with a larger community of people like me, clergy, that were interested in doing eco-justice work, and not only clergy, but beyond. No? So, and of course, the Green Seminary Initiative is a great way to not only just help institutions to see how they can bring the environmental concern into their whole life in terms of the the life of the building, the life, what they are teaching, liturgy, ceremonies within the seminary itself. But for people who are already ordained or outside of the seminary setting, perhaps the fellowship program, that was my first thought, it would be the best place to connect.
Yep, that's great. And I think for with the Green Seminary Initiative, the actions that seminaries are undertaking, they're integrating environmental care into the education that they provide to their students, into their rituals and worship and the spiritual life of their institutions, into the way they manage their facilities, into their community engagement, and into their governance and policies. So that's the focus of the work there, with the idea being that that by really transforming those institutions in a green way, they will be able to be models and equippers for the students that they serve. That said, we're also really eager this year and are working with our Green Seminary colleagues to find ways that we can engage with students at those institutions, because as our future spiritual and religious leaders, we need their leadership, and we know that a lot of them are eager to jump in. So we're looking forward to sharing more about that as the year progresses. A couple of questions for Carolina from our good friend Jennifer Aldridge, a GreenFaith fellow in Tennessee, and from Roseanne Skirble, a GreenFaith fellow in Washington, D.C., about, has a weekend been selected at the end of 2018 for the celebrations? And then a little bit more about any follow-up, so that we celebrate not only the commitments being made, but also the commitments being kept, if you will. I'm rephrasing Roseanne's question a little bit, but Carolina, why don't I pass those questions to you?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for your lively interest in this initiative. It's brand new, and we're also excited about it. And it's really good to hear your different comments and ideas regarding it. So on the Global Weekend, this will be towards the end of the year, most probably somewhere between the Global Climate Action Summit in California and the COP24 in Poland. The date will be selected soon. So hopefully in a few weeks from now, we can announce when this Global Weekend is taking place. We just want to make sure we don't compete with other important events, but we kind of build a global narrative where all these things nicely flow together. There was a question by Nadine on how to become partner of the initiative. We do have, as I said, the global partners from their first planning phase, and we will soon develop our invitations for new partners to join. And you're all very much invited to get in contact with me directly, and we'll also be able to share some concept notes and some information about the initiative with you soon, so that you can discuss with your faith community and with your leadership if you are interested to join. And also in which role you want to join this campaign and initiative. Someone else asked about the commitments turning into action. If this is not the goal of the initiative, then we shouldn't be doing it, right? So I think that this initiative is very intriguing, because it's about individual engagement, what everyone can do. And it's a manifestation of what we teach. So it's about walking the talk. So we cannot only commit to it, but we also have to do it. And we'll be working on a scaled approach, or on a step-by-step approach, on how people commit to it, take the pledge, and then how do we celebrate the action and also monitor the change that's being done. So this is the beginning of it, and there will be many different steps of this whole campaign. But I think the whole idea of giving something up is important here, and actually going into our own personal lifestyles. I mean, we've heard different examples from team members already. For example, what does it mean if you give up eating meat so often? What does it take to reduce air travel? What does it take to change your energy consumption? These are the first steps, but then of course next steps are, and there was a question on sustainable agriculture. Those are the follow-up questions to that. So it's an entry into being more involved, and for those who are already very involved, about walking the talk. I think that's what I can say for now.
All right. Thanks, Carolina. That's great. And I wonder, as an example of one kind of commitment that's being made, and some work that Nana Furman is doing to help follow through on that. Nana, perhaps you could describe briefly the the sustainable mosque commitment made in Indonesia and the kind of work that's going on to begin to follow through with that. That would give people, I think, good sense of some work happening in Indonesia.
Yeah, so recently, last November, we had the commitment, it's national commitment in Indonesia to what it's called the Eco Mosque. So we're trying to campaign that, like to greening our mosque in Indonesia. So the first step is they've been working on this, on, trying to use efficiently on their water. And so this year, they commit to have 1,000 mosques with solar panel 2020. So this is very exciting. And then they're going to actually introduce that through the Islamic finance model. So this is never done in the world. So we are very excited, and we'll share as we move along on this initiative.
Thanks, Nana, and thanks to you for your leadership behind the scenes in encouraging that initiative along. It was really Indonesia, as many people on the call know, is the world's largest Muslim majority country, and to have that kind of leadership emerge is really exciting. There are a couple of questions. One question specifically about anything we're doing about the repeal of the Clean Power Plan. We view our participation in the broad sort of resistance to what the current administration in Washington is doing, including that repeal, through our participation in the People's Climate Movement. And so that'll be a message that will be part of the organizing and mobilizing work that we're doing with PCM. So that's how I would respond to that. And then a couple of questions about climate finance. One question about a new initiative in New Jersey to seek to get the state government to divest from fossil fuels. GreenFaith is one of the organizing partners of that. We're working, there's been legislation that's been dropped in New Jersey around that, and now it's a question of doing the public education work that's going to be important to build support for that initiative. And then one question about data, can we share any data that confirms that equity portfolios without fossil fuel exposure outperform equity portfolios with fossil fuel investments? We always need to be very clear that we are not investment managers and are not purveyors or providers of investment advice. That said, what we can do is to share links to studies that have been done that demonstrate that investors have been able to divest from the fossil fuel sector and do as well or better in terms of their returns. Obviously, results depend on the actual steps that individual investment managers take. And as I said previously, that's outside of our sort of proper right to comment on, but that's something that's something that we know there is good research on. A number of questions about potential collaborations with Interfaith Power and Light here in the US, whether in Georgia or elsewhere. I'll say a few things about that, and then Estrella can say a few things from her perspective with the local organizing work. We always welcome partnerships with IPL and with other groups. I mentioned earlier Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake, with whom we've been friendly for a number of years. With the circle organizing, what we see is that in many cases, we think that it's entirely likely that the local circles, as they decide on their priorities, will want to collaborate and understand the legislative priorities of IPL or other groups in the states where they're doing their work, so that they can add their advocacy voice to the advocacy voices of those other organizations. But we also know that it's really important for local groups to be able to make those decisions themselves. GreenFaith will always have a commitment to advocacy on environmental and climate issues that has a strong equity focus, that views these issues through the lens of racial and economic justice. And with that, we, as I said, have a track record and a real desire to partner with a range of groups, because we know, frankly, that many organizations, many people, are members of multiple organizations that deal with this. There are lots of dual and triple citizenships, if you will, of people who work with IPL and GreenFaith and the Sierra Club, or any sort of combination thereof. And we understand that, and we think that's great. So we're getting close towards the end of our time, and I want to make sure that we allow enough time for this. But Estrella, what would you add to anything that I've said about the local organizing perspective on partnerships?
Yeah, I think what you said is really true to how the local organizing works, and the partnerships are really important, and and expanding and accelerating the level of engagement is a common, I think, priority between many interfaith environmental organizations and ourselves. And so I think we need to come together around that, and acknowledge and what our strengths are, and pair that up to make a really strong local team of faith leaders around, locally around the country and around the world.
I think what I'd add, Carolina mentioned this earlier, but we particularly want to give a shout out to our the major partners who've stepped forward for the Multi-Faith Sustainable Living Initiative, the Bhumi Project, the Hindu Environmental Network, One Earth Sangha, the Buddhist climate change organization that Kristen Barker and Lou Leonard have done such a great job of initiating and fostering, the Global Muslim Climate Network, the World Evangelical Alliance, the World Council of Churches, Hazon, the Global Catholic Climate Movement. We're really thrilled to be able to partner with such a range of groups, and the partnerships are not limited to those. And one of the things we're hoping to do is find a way, and that we will do, is find a way so that many, many different groups can affiliate themselves with that Multi-Faith Sustainable Living Initiative, because that's going to be a campaign that we share together, and we need each other to be able to get to the magnitude of impact that's needed. Let me now sort of go once through to each of our speakers here, just so that they can speak to any questions that they've seen that I've missed on the go through, and also to offer any final thoughts that they might have. And when we get to the very end, we'll make Nettie our last respondent, and Nettie will then also offer a closing prayer or reflection for us, so that we lift up a Muslim voice at the beginning of our webinar and a Latin American Christian voice at the end. And thanks to Estrella, who's been adding on a couple of occasions the contact emails for all of the speakers on this webinar in the chats area, and you'll also get that when you get the recording link. But Nana, why don't we start with you, and then go to Carolina, and then Estrella, and then to Nettie to close things out. Nope, Nana, I think you're on mute. Nope, Nana's screen is frozen for the moment. So Estrella, why don't we go to you, and then as soon as we see Nana moving around again, we'll know she's on. Oh, Nana, there, you're unfrozen.
Oh, yes.
Try now.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yes, so yeah, I'm so excited and looking forward to work with all of you on the webinar right now, and those of you who cannot join the webinar today, but there's a lot of exciting moments. We have a lot of challenges this year, but also a lot of exciting moments, as already mentioned earlier, but a lot of by some of my colleagues, and we are looking forward to work together with you and to be there to protect our planet together.
Nope, it may have been there we go. Carolina, can you hear us? Why don't you give any closing thoughts?
Yes. Yeah, so just to say, I'm very pleased and thrilled to work with you all and to reach out. And it's great to making some contacts with you already. For me, as a closing word, I would actually like to read 3 sentences from the interfaith statement that the Sustainable Living Initiative has launched in Bonn at the Climate Change Conference and has handed over to political leaders there. And I just want to read it out because it summarizes so well what this initiative is about. As religious and spiritual leaders, we are committing to make changes in our own lives and to support the members of our communities in doing the same. Together, we come to you with an invitation to embark on a journey towards compassionate simplicity for the sake of the climate, the human family, and the community of life. For many of us, changes in 3 areas makes the greatest impact: dramatically reducing emissions from our home energy use, adopting a plant-based diet, and reducing food waste, and minimizing automobile and air travel. Through this collective effort, we look forward to creating a global community of conscience and practice in which we will learn to put belief into action in relation to our own lifestyles. Thank you very much.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Carolina. Estrella, why don't we go now to you?
Yeah. GreenFaith circles are a really exciting opportunity to enhance our work at our own congregations and spiritual communities, as well as build relationships in the community and start to solve the really critical environmental problems that our cities, our states, and our world faces. And this work is a lot more enjoyable when done in relationship and collaboration with others. And we really start to experience transformation locally and socially, and even more environmentally sustainable solutions when we do it with people that are different from us, that come from a different background, and that offer a different perspective. And so I really am excited for GreenFaith to see GreenFaith circles in more countries and more states this year, and just really hope to lift up the existing local networks of faith communities that exist, and just collaborate on that potential.
Thanks so much, Estrella, and thanks for your tireless energy around the circles. It's really exciting to see those start to take root. Nettie, let's pass it to you for any final thoughts and for a closing, a spiritual closing.
Yes, thank you. No, I just would like to say, as coordinator for Latin America, if any of you who are listening do have contacts with faith groups in Latin America, I would love to know about them. So thank you for those who have shared some of their own thoughts in the chat. And also with groups in faith-based groups in the Florida region for our organizing work in Florida. I would also love to hear more about what's happening in Florida. So my email it's in the chat too. So yeah, did Nana have a chance to say her last words now that she's in, or?
I think so. Nana, anything you'd like to add? I think she mentioned earlier her excitement at both the
yes, she did. Okay, very good. All right. Well, while nature screams here at home, I have a few parrots that decided to be very loud right now. I just want to invite us all to come together in a spiritual moment for a prayer. Precious Spirit, and you who call us and inspire us each day to live in harmony with one another and with Earth, we pray that you may lead us in this journey together. Give us courage. Give us clarity, give us joy, give us peace. Equip us, guide us in any way necessary each day. United in you, we pray and we give you thanks. Amen.
Amen. Well, thanks so much to everybody for joining us. I see too many familiar names of longtime friends and colleagues on the list of attendees to be able to do shout outs to all of you, but it's wonderful to have the chance to be together. Thanks to all of the members of our team from all of our different locations for being able to be together here. And we are, as all of us have said, eager to work with you all to protect the earth, our common home, this precious planet. So thank you so much. It's wonderful to be with you all, and we look forward to being in touch again soon. Take care, and God bless. Bye-bye now.